this whole situation has sort of been drawn out and become more dramatic because not only is the MAGA base wanting more answers and not satisfied with how the administration has handled it, but now you have people inside the administration who are also infighting over this issue.
It is, for Donald Trump, a story that won't die. And it's an odd experience for a man who usually shrugs off scandal. But his MAGA base are asking, why will his government not release, as promised, the files associated with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein? No matter how often the president says there's nothing to see, it seems his supporters become more convinced there is indeed something to see, as he found out last night.
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why do you think that is?
Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
Well, there you go. It's boring and sordid. I think anything sordid is by definition not boring. But what has made this story so compelling, and why is the usually Teflon-coated Trump struggling to get it off him? Shelby Talcott is a reporter for the US outlet Semafor, and she's been writing about this. Shelby, can you explain the ins and outs of what this row is about?
Well, it's pretty convoluted and complicated but to make a long story short, Donald Trump supporters have for a long time been sort of fixated on the whole Jeffrey Epstein saga. And for years, a lot of individuals within the MAGA movement have sort of piled on and stoked the flames of some of these unfounded theories that we're always hearing about Jeffrey Epstein and about high-profile Democrats and individuals in the media. And so now you have Donald Trump, who of course talked a lot on the campaign trail about releasing all of these documents, all of the MLK documents, all of the JFK documents. And to come to a conclusion of, last week, the DOJ and the FBI in an unsigned Sunday night 2-page memo effectively said, this case is closed. There's nothing to see here. There was no Epstein client list. We're not going to be releasing any more documents. Now, this saga got more complicated because there are individuals within the FBI, the deputy FBI director, Dan Bongino, who disagreed with this decision to close the case. And there was essentially a massive blow-up fight at the White House last week, which culminated in Dan Bongino not showing up to work on Friday. And so this whole situation has sort of been drawn out and become more dramatic because not only is the MAGA base wanting more answers and not satisfied with how the administration has handled it, but now you have people inside the administration who are also infighting over this issue.
And are the files that exist that aren't being released, or is it simply that it's possible that the files they want don't exist?
I mean, it's a good question because if you read the 2-page memo, the argument from the DOJ is there are a number of documents, but they are related to, child incidents that we're not certainly going to release that information. But when I talk to FBI folks, their argument is there's a whole host of other things, of other documents that could be unsealed that haven't been unsealed. And that's the stuff that they want out. And then, of course, there's the whole question of this Epstein client list. You had Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, go on Fox News in February and sort of suggest that there was an Epstein client list. Now, she has since said that she was talking about the files generally. She was not speaking specifically about the Epstein client list, although the question was specifically about the Epstein client list. And so MAGA sort of influencers aren't satisfied with the answer that now there's suddenly no client list. Now, when I talk to the FBI folks, I've heard from them the argument that there was never any client list. There was never any official client list. They don't know why Pam Bondi said that. And so this has really just roiled the Trump base in a way that I think the White House was not expecting it to.
And is that if you're already believing that there is or has been a state conspiracy and a list with powerful men on it who don't want it released, presumably if Trump is then not, in your view, not your view, in one's view, releasing documents, he risks implicating himself as part of that conspiracy, surely.
Absolutely. And we've seen those sort of questions start to percolate. Why the argument from these critics who believe that the administration hasn't been forthcoming, why aren't they being forthcoming? And the easiest answer, of course, is to blame the president. But I think the most interesting aspect here is the president has been really trying to tamp down on this anger. You heard him just now talk about how he genuinely doesn't understand why his base is so fixated on this. He's made calls personally to some of these influencers to try to get them to quiet down, to try to get them on his side. But this is sort of the one thing I think that Trump has not been able to tamp down on. And he's had years of successfully sort of reeling his base back into line. This is one incident where it seems like it's more difficult for him. And
are the Democrats making capital on this, or is it difficult because presumably they have to ally with the MAGA base if they ask the questions?
No, they are. I think that they are using the MAGA base's frustration to amplify this. And it's really interesting because I think one thing that's always important to note is, years ago when Democrats talked about the Jeffrey Epstein the scandal, it was sort of framed as a conservative fixation. And now you've seen how they've shifted their sort of thinking on all of this. And they're now going and saying, well, what are you hiding? Why isn't Donald Trump releasing the documents? And so it's definitely political, but it is a potentially effective political argument to make, especially when you're considering in the midterms, you're going to have all of these lawmakers who are aligning themselves with Donald Trump, and Democrats are trying to point out, okay, well, Donald Trump said he was going to do X, Y, Z. He's doing the opposite now. What's going on?
Thank you very much. That's Shelby Talcott, a reporter for the US outlet Semafor.
Mr. President. Mr. President? Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why do you think that is?
Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it. Thank you, President. Thank you.